Hi everyone. In this week's update, I thought I would try and tackle the ever-changing and ever-complex COVID self-isolation and travel rules, because there have been a lot of updates over the past week, and we've been asked about the same. So we'll firstly look at the changes to self-isolation rules. The default position, obviously, if anybody has symptoms, is that they must self-isolate as soon as symptoms develop. In the event that somebody's asymptomatic and has a positive test, again, self-isolation rules apply. From the 11th of January, individuals who do not have symptoms but test positive on a lateral flow test do not need a confirmatory PCR test to confirm their status. It's extremely likely, the government says, that those with a positive lateral flow test will be positive, so do not need that added PCR. And I assume it keeps supplies of PCR tests stable for those that really need them. Self-isolation lasts for a minimum of 7 days. After 2 negative lateral flow tests taken 24 hours apart, the first no earlier than day 6, somebody can stop self-isolating if both of those tests are negative. So one on day 6, one at least more than 24 hours later on day 7 if they're both negative, and an individual does not display a high temperature. They can then stop self-isolating. Otherwise, they would have to continue to take tests 24 hours apart until both are negative, and after day 10 an individual is free from isolation and can return to work unless they remain unwell. That guidance applies whatever the vaccination status or whichever COVID variant the individual may have. Anyone leaving self-isolation after 7 days is strongly advised, although not a mandatory requirement, to limit close contact with people in crowded or poorly ventilated spaces, should work from home, and should minimise contact with anyone at higher risk of severe illness. The self-isolation rules for contacts of people with COVID are different depending on those who are vaccinated or not vaccinated. So if somebody is fully vaccinated, that is in England that they've had 2 doses, they do not have to self-isolate unless they have symptoms, but should take daily lateral flow tests for 7 days or until 10 days since the last contact with the household positive case, if that is earlier. If any of the lateral flow tests are positive, the individual must self-isolate from the day of the test. Again, from the 11th of January, a confirmatory PCR test is not required. Close contacts of positive cases who are not fully vaccinated must self-isolate for the full 10 days. And obviously, anybody who develops COVID symptoms during self-isolation will need to self-isolate. The final significant changes over the last week have been with travel rules. A lateral flow test can now be used instead of PCR tests for fully vaccinated travellers when they arrive in the UK, and that must be taken before the end of day 2 following that arrival. They will no longer have to take a pre-departure test and will not have to self-isolate on arrival in England pending the result of their test. Anyone who receives a positive result on a lateral flow test must self-isolate immediately, and in this case must order a PCR test. That is with the intention of sequencing the virus to understand if any variants have emerged and to protect the UK public. For anybody who is not fully vaccinated and returning to the UK, they must quarantine for 10 days on arrival and take tests on day 2 and 8. So no changes for those who are not fully vaccinated. From an employment perspective, I know a number of businesses have put in place more cautious rules. So even if a household contact is positive and the employee who lives with them is taking regular tests, some businesses are encouraging working from home in those circumstances. The rules on travel are also important as well, because the new guidance does hopefully reduce the amount of time that someone will have to self-isolate and be away from work once they return from foreign travel, as long as they are vaccinated. Questions are cropping up all the time though, so if you do need any guidance on particular cases, please do get in touch. Visit the website chadwicklawrence.co.uk for more information, or email employmenthub@chadlaw.co.uk. Thank you.